The year is 1980. It is the dead of winter, and we find ourselves in Hackensack, New Jersey, where freight goes to die. Amongst the trucking depots and auto body shops is an old frozen warehouse, and inside it, 2,000 units of unsold inventory. There stands a man gazing over it. His name is Minoru Arakawa. He has the look of a handsome and fit young executive, and the stoicism that comes from his native, Kyoto, Japan. Yet stress inevitably compounds in his demeanor. He stares blankly at the rows of inventory as if he's the first at a crime scene. What was supposed to be his ultimate entry into the United States market is now his shame. These are rows of arcade games, cabinets that are an estimated $6 million in inventory, which hold a poorly received game called Radar Scope, were ordered by Arakawa himself. And no matter how hard he tries, he cannot sell them. While Nintendo of Japan will survive this, Nintendo of America will become insolvent, an intolerable humiliation for the company, but far worse for Arakawa. He is not simply the first president of Nintendo of America. He is also the son-in-law of the famously cutthroat owner of Nintendo itself. Hiroshi Yamauchi has spent over 30 years building Nintendo into a large company. The embarrassment here could go far beyond the money. It is about honor. 45 years later, Nintendo would become a global powerhouse, succeeding where many publicly traded companies vastly larger struggled. Video games. Nintendo not only has success in home console sales, but has one of the most well-known character IPs on the planet, Mario. Understanding Nintendo's resilience can help us with our own investment decisions and portfolio structures. So let us go back to look at the time Nintendo almost wasn't. This is Moreau. Kyoto, Japan. Still December. An austere and crisp cold surrounds the square and nondescript gray-colored Nintendo headquarters. It's a striking contrast to the flashy and fast-paced Tokyo hundreds of miles away, where the flagship company of Japan, Sony, is headquartered. Long ago, the emperor left Kyoto for Tokyo, and since then, Kyoto has held a quiet, contained, intense ambition. Inside the Nintendo headquarters paces the owner and chief executive of Nintendo, Hiroshi Yamauchi. Fierce and aloof, 53 years old, an owner-survivor of Nintendo for over 30 years. He has overcome some extreme challenges and had the vision to move the century-old company from trading cards into the emerging digital games market. His instincts thus far have been correct. Revenue in Japan is better than ever, even if margins are thin. But Arakawa, with Nintendo of America, is a different story. With its imminent failure, he faces international embarrassment, brand damage, and a potential deep rift with his family. He needed help. He knew just the man. His name was Gunpei Yokoi. There was a problem, however. Yokoi was currently leading one of the most important and lucrative product sales events in Nintendo's history. Where would Yokoi find the time? The current roaring sales from Nintendo of Japan were largely because of Yokoi, who, with a curious mind and gentle demeanor, had a keen insight into the toys that would sell. Recently, he had pitched a handheld device called the Game & Watch, a game which worked on the simple technology of a handheld calculator. When it hit stores, it caught fire. Over the course of 1980, the Game & Watch had sold more than 5 million units. Momentum was only growing. Yokoi was furiously in development on multiple variations of the game. If Yokoi took his eyes away from the Game & Watch even for a moment, the result could be disastrous. And yet the 38-year-old with graying temples and the tenacity for solution-making formed an idea with Yamauchi that was wild and never before tried. 6 months later, it would deliver to the shores of the United States. It's now 1981. Time might have flown by as a flurry of production in Japan, but in the United States, every second carried brutal anxiety. The deep winter passed to a thin, sweltering summer. During that time, Arakawa made a drastic but wise decision, moving the 2,000 units of dead inventory halfway across the country. The results are tremendous. He saves a full 4 months in shipping time. Now the dead inventory sits in a large warehouse just below Seattle, Washington. What will soon arrive is Yokoi's answer. A new game in the form of a conversion kit, allowing Arakawa and team to switch the old radar scope game with the new game. At last, Arakawa receives the new shipment. Anticipation grows. All he needs from this new game is just enough iteration, making it just a little better than radar scope so he can sell the cabinets, make most of their money back, make Nintendo of America solvent, start again. As a test, Arakawa and his small team set one cabinet aside, use the conversion kit, and convert one cabinet to the new game. With great anticipation, Arakawa takes a deep breath, and they turn it on. With a jolt of bright lights and sounds, the game comes to life. They look. At first, stunning silence, then confusion, then panic. The game looked like nothing they had asked for, and perhaps worse, it is unlike any arcade game they had ever seen. In fact, to them, it is incomprehensible. For Arakawa, a new phrase enters his mind, one that never occurred to him before. Imminent failure. This kind of loss is not something he's ever experienced. After all, he graduated from MIT. He had left a successful real estate business after being heavily recruited by his father-in-law. He is the one that had ordered the 3,000 cabinets of the arcade game radar scope in what now seems hubristic. But radar scope had sold well in Japan. How was his call so wrong? Did he just bankrupt Nintendo of America? The possible answer comes from a young man named Howard Phillips, who had recently been hired to help in the warehouse. Unlike the elders who had played the game and not understood it, Phillips stands for a moment after playing, shocked. But his shock is quite different than the others. I think this might be the greatest game I have ever played, he says in disbelief. A glimmer of hope returns to Arakawa. and so he decides to place a few machines in public to see the response. He quickly gets his answer. Later that summer, Arakawa finds himself, a few workers, even his wife, the daughter of Yamauchi, in the large, unair-conditioned warehouse, converting all the radar scope cabinets into the new game. The heat is oppressive. Their shirts are soaked with sweat, and yet they have no choice. With no additional money to hire people, they convert the game themselves. But there is hope in this action. They have received a positive signal. This game is at least selling better than Radar Scope. Arakawa did not know it yet, but he had a hit. A monster hit. Yokoi's decision 6 months before was going to carry them through. 6 months earlier, when Yamauchi approached Yokoi, it was fair to say Yokoi could not have been busier. Certainly Game & Watch was taking all of his time. But the reality was, this constraint was only the beginning. Radar Scope's programming was performed out of house, and arcades at the time were hard-coded to the cabinets. As a result, his engineers, even if they were free, were useless in this case. More than an engineer, Yokoi needed someone with a vision of what the game could be. Someone who would see the situation as the opportunity of a lifetime. 14 years before this, Yamauchi had given Yokoi that chance, selling a toy Yokoi had invented called the Ultra Hand, bringing a struggling Nintendo back to life. Yamauchi and Yokoi were about to give that same opportunity to a new man. His name was Shigeru Miyamoto. A feature of Kyoto, Japan is its beautiful rural areas to the north. It is here that Miyamoto was raised. Unlike the elite and highly recruited candidates who went to companies like Sony, Miyamoto was not aggressive and instead loved riding his bike or walking to work and dreaming. If Yokoi carried a calm and gentle demeanor, Miyamoto looked mischievous, carrying a wide and Cheshire-like smile, displaying genuine humility and wonder. In his younger life, he had longed to be an anime artist, yet his limited drawing skills had moved him into industrial design. And Yokoi had foreseen that games were moving to graphics, and Miyamoto was then hired as a staff artist, a role where Yamauchi and Yokoi found him reliable and competent. Most important to the moment, Yokoi knew Miyamoto wanted to make a game. When the proposal was made, Miyamoto leapt at the chance. This game, his game, would be different. Prior to Miyamoto, video games were designed by engineers. There's a kind of romance around the madman coding at the computer, which was real. But Miyamoto could not code. His tools were pencil and graph paper. He did not see ones and zeros. He saw story. To transform Radar Scope, Miyamoto would spend hours drawing, ideating, testing, and in constant communication with the outsourced coding company who would bring to life what Miyamoto was creating. Unbeknownst to anyone, even its leadership, Nintendo was inventing a new production process around Miyamoto. Prior to Miyamoto, engineers often concerned themselves with one main point on the game. Does it work? Miyamoto asked a different question. Is it fun? The economic powerhouse of Miyamoto's first game, Donkey Kong, not only reversed Nintendo of America's fate, it resulted in a tectonic shift of the emerging industry sector everywhere. While Arakawa could not sell radar scope, he could not produce Donkey Kong fast enough. This was for a simple reason. The game made a lot of money. For a store owner, an arcade game purchase was an upfront investment. They would purchase the cabinet and then make their money back on the quarters used for it. For buyers of arcade games, Donkey Kong was a sure bet. The game literally ate quarters, creating profit as much as 3.5 times faster than a normal arcade game. And as a result, Arakawa replaced his 2,000 unsold units with massive back orders and requests for Donkey Kong, which sold a staggering 60,000 units within 1 year, grossing $180 million for Nintendo of America, outpacing the previous year's revenue of Nintendo of Japan. Even more staggering, the game generated over $1.4 billion in revenue for those who bought the arcade cabinets. Miyamoto had unlocked something special with Donkey Kong, yet Yamauchi saw something else. That $1.4 billion in revenue. Selling arcade systems only allowed a fraction of the real revenue that could be earned. During those formative years of Donkey Kong, Yamauchi had set into motion something special: home consoles. Home consoles, essentially a video game that could be played at home or taking off with the Atari 2600. If Nintendo could build its own, Yamauchi would not only make money off the cabinets, he would make the money from return game play. This understanding, along with the mechanics of Donkey Kong, were a powder keg waiting to happen. A combination was brewing that would need marination, a test market proof in Japan, and an ensuing crash of the Atari 2600. 4 years would pass as Nintendo carefully perfected a machine capable of market dominance that could catapult Nintendo into legendary status. One final and most important note before we leave Nintendo in 1981. A decision Arakawa made, which no one at the time realized would reverberate into gaming history. When Donkey Kong arrived at the warehouse, he noted a problem with the lead character. The character was made in haste and was quickly named Jumpman. Arakawa believed this name would not work for an American audience. They needed a real name, and that name literally came knocking at their door. Their flamboyant and regionally well-known landlord came to them about their late rent. Whether it was for irony, or whether it was a kind gesture because the landlord mercifully allowed them time to pay their rent, Arakawa found it fitting to name Jumpman after the landlord. His name was Mario. Over the course of the next 4 years, Mario would star in other arcade games for Nintendo. But it was the combination of Yamauchi's home console and Mario that would, 4 years later, spark a new craze in video games and change the world. But that is another story. In the meantime, consider that when the end seems inevitable, often success is just waiting to be grasped. Please like, share, and subscribe for more stories. This is Minoru.